When a serious crime goes to trial, juries look to forensic science for absolute truth, but treating any scientific assumption as infallible can lead a courtroom straight into a disaster. In the year 2000, 19-year-old Rachel Manning was found murdered in the undergrowth near a Milton Keynes golf course. Police arrested her boyfriend, Barry White, and his friend, Keith Hyatt, charging them with the crime. The killers had attacked Rachel with a car steering lock. The physical weapon was left at the scene, offering investigators their first concrete starting point, but an incomplete picture of the attacker. This diagram illustrates Locard's principle. It is a foundational concept in forensics, stating that every physical contact leaves a trace. If you sit on a seat, you leave a microscopic exchange of material behind. Investigators analyzed Keith Hyatt's van seat and Rachel's skirt. They found 7 shared microscopic particles, including a highly specific chemical substance called cerium. The prosecution argued this substance was so rare in the general environment that the match proved Rachel had been in that specific van. A jury agreed and delivered a guilty verdict. Barry White and Keith Hyatt spent 6 years in prison, maintaining their innocence the entire time. Their freedom was taken away by a system relying on a piece of misinterpreted data. An investigative team took up the case and brought in expert witness Andrew Moncrief to reevaluate the physical evidence. He immediately focused on the prosecution's claim regarding the rarity of those cerium particles. Moncrief knew that cerium does have one extremely common commercial application. The flint used in a standard everyday cigarette lighter is actually an alloy made of cerium and iron. To test how easily this trace material could spread, Moncrief ran a laboratory experiment. He proved that a single flick of a lighter's wheel produces up to 4,000 cerium particles in an expanding cloud. Keith Hyatt smoked in his van. Barry White smoked. Rachel Manning smoked. Moncrief tested other random commercial vans and found the exact same combination of particles in almost all of them. The evidence was entirely circumstantial. Armed with this proof, the families appealed, and the convictions were finally quashed. The original laboratory analysis was mathematically correct, but stripped of its environmental context, the data was meaningless. It generated a false certainty that imprisoned 2 innocent men. Clearing the innocent is only half the process. Years later, a cold case unit reopened the investigation. To find the actual killer, they abandoned the search for trace environmental dust and turned to modern biological profiling. Experts targeted the unbroken end of the steering lock, searching for genetic material left behind by the attacker's grip. They successfully extracted a touch DNA profile. When run against the national database, it returned a match to a man named Shahid Ahmed. Ahmed claimed his DNA was present through casual contact. Investigators needed secondary biological proof. This chart maps mitochondrial DNA inheritance, a genetic marker passed down the maternal line. Extracted from a single hair, this DNA allowed statisticians to eliminate Ahmed's 3 brothers, proving it was 350,000 times more likely to belong to Shahid. The biological data cut through the circumstantial noise of the original trial. Relying on undeniable mathematical probability, a jury convicted Shahid Ahmed of murder. This rigorous approach to flawed data extends far beyond biology. In August 2016, a violent attack unfolded outside a busy nightclub in Leeds. 3 men attacked a single victim with a machete and a sawn-off shotgun. The crime was recorded on CCTV, but the footage was too dark and heavily pixelated for detectives to positively identify the perpetrators. Police brought in Shalina Jalani, an expert in facial recognition. She applied a strict blind assessment methodology, refusing to look at images of the police's primary suspects, focusing entirely on the raw pixel data available on the tapes. Jalani scanned hours of footage from inside the well-lit club earlier that evening. She built behavioral profiles for the three attackers by tracking subtle visual cues, the specific way one wore his hood indoors, or the distinct shape of another's glasses. This geometric overlay demonstrates how she analyzed the men's facial morphology. Even working with low-resolution pixels, she mapped the proportions of their nasal bridges and the exact placement of facial hair along the zygomatic bone on the side of the face. Once the visual tracking data was locked in, Jelani compared her findings against the police photos. The geometric proportions matched the three men in police custody perfectly. Confronted with the precision of this analysis, the attackers were convicted and handed lengthy prison sentences. Even heavily degraded, low-quality visual noise contains the facts. Extracting that truth simply requires processing the pixels through an unbiased, systematic methodology. The gap between counting particles of lighter flint and mapping the geometry of a face from digital noise is vast. The standard of proof is entirely different today than it was 2 decades ago. Forensic science is not a static list of rules. It is an active discipline that must constantly adapt, test its own assumptions, and integrate new technologies as they develop. The ultimate safeguard in a courtroom is the expert witness. The hardware and software only calculate what they are told to calculate. It takes an analyst to verify the context, check the math, and stand between a jury and a flawed assumption. Justice requires the aggressive, continuous re-examination of data. By demanding higher standards of proof, the justice system ensures that the innocent get their lives back, and the truly guilty face reality.